report the chaos. We reveal the agenda.
Good evening and welcome to ATM. Imagine a world where ships vanish without a trace, leaving behind an eerie silence and a global mystery. These aren't pirate tales. These are the ghost fleets, and they're a hidden, dark side of international shipping you've probably never heard of. What chilling secrets do they hold, and why are they sailing silently through our oceans right now? Over 90% of everything you own, the clothes you wear, the tech you use, the food you eat arrived on a ship. The global shipping industry is the circulatory system of our modern world, a fleet of over 50,000 massive vessels. But beneath the waves of this visible trade lies a shadowy, unregulated armada. What if I told you that a growing portion of our global supply chain is being carried on ships that, for all legal purposes, don't officially exist? These are the ghost fleets, vessels operating outside traditional regulatory frameworks, often under so-called flags of convenience, with obscured ownership and dubious safety records. And in the chaos of geopolitical tensions and post-COVID supply chain crunches, their numbers are exploding. Why does this matter? Because these ships are floating disasters waiting to happen. They are a threat to our environment, a stain on human rights, and a gaping hole in our national security. A recent report from maritime intelligence firm Windward AI noted a dramatic spike in dark activity, ships disabling their trackers to conduct illicit business, from evading sanctions to illegal fishing. They spill oil with impunity, exploit their crews like modern-day slaves, and move sanctioned goods that fuel conflicts. They are the preferred tool of rogue states and criminal enterprises. But how did these rogue vessels come to dominate such a critical part of our economy? The story begins not with criminals, but with lawyers and accountants. In the mid-20th century, the concept of flags of convenience was born. American shipping magnates, looking to avoid high taxes and strict labor laws, began registering their ships in countries like Panama and Liberia. These countries offered a simple, seductive deal: pay a small fee, and we will give you our flag, with minimal oversight and even fewer questions. It was a loophole, a clever way to cut costs. But this loophole has now become a chasm, a regulatory black hole large enough to hide an entire shadow fleet. The complex web of shell companies, tax havens, and flags of convenience makes it difficult to trace ownership and hold perpetrators accountable. Today, ghost fleets are used to fuel wars and create humanitarian crises, bypassing international sanctions and enabling illicit trade. These fleets utilize various tactics to conceal their activities, including turning off AIS transponders, manipulating AIS signals, and conducting ship-to-ship transfers in remote locations. Shadow fleets often consist of older, poorly maintained vessels with unclear ownership and inadequate insurance, posing significant risks to maritime safety and the environment. Crews on shadow vessels often face exploitative labor conditions, including low wages, long hours, and unsafe working environments, highlighting a severe human rights issue. The lack of transparency and regulatory oversight associated with ghost fleets undermines maritime security and facilitates criminal activities on a global scale. Governments and international organizations are working to strengthen sanctions enforcement and improve maritime monitoring to detect and deter ghost fleet activity. Maritime AI companies like Windward are developing advanced technologies to track vessels, identify suspicious behavior, and assess risks associated with dark shipping. Efforts are underway to close loopholes in flag of convenience registries and increase scrutiny of ship ownership and operations, aiming for greater accountability. In the next part, we will see how this loophole is being exploited today to fuel wars and create a humanitarian crisis on the high seas. The loophole of flags of convenience has been transformed into a sophisticated tool of modern statecraft and illicit commerce. This practice, once a simple way to avoid taxes, has evolved into a complex system enabling clandestine operations on a global scale, blurring the lines between legitimate trade and shadowy dealings. The ghost fleets of 2025 aren't just about saving money on taxes. They are a critical weapon in the great game of geopolitics and a lifeline for criminal enterprises. These vessels operate outside conventional regulations, providing a means for nations and illicit organizations to circumvent international laws and sanctions, thereby reshaping global power dynamics and facilitating illegal trade networks. The most significant driver of the Ghost Fleet's growth is sanctions evasion. As international bodies impose restrictions on certain countries or commodities, these fleets offer a clandestine pathway for goods to move, undermining the very purpose of such sanctions and creating a parallel, unregulated economy. When the West imposed sanctions on Russian and Iranian oil, it didn't stop the flow, it just pushed it into the shadows. This created a massive demand for covert shipping, leading to the rapid expansion of these dark fleets, which operate with impunity, often under the radar of international surveillance. An entire dark fleet has emerged, a massive armada of aging tankers, often insured by unknown companies and flying obscure flags. These vessels are deliberately designed to be untraceable, constantly changing their identities and operating in a legal gray area, making it incredibly difficult for authorities to monitor or intercept them. Maritime experts now estimate this fleet numbers over 1,000 vessels. These ships are frequently repurposed, undergoing rapid changes in name, flag, and even paint to evade detection, creating a constantly shifting network of illicit transport that challenges traditional maritime tracking methods. They engage in spoofing, falsifying their GPS signals to appear as if they're in one location while they are actually loading sanctioned cargo thousands of miles away. This sophisticated deception allows them to operate with a high degree of anonymity, making it nearly impossible to verify their true movements and activities. It's a high-stakes shell game on the high seas, making a mockery of international sanctions. This elaborate charade undermines global efforts to enforce economic restrictions, allowing prohibited goods to reach their destinations and funding activities that are detrimental to international security and stability. Beyond geopolitics, there's a brutal economic incentive, a race to the bottom. Legitimate shipping is expensive, burdened by regulations, safety standards, and environmental compliance. The Ghost Fleet, by contrast, operates without these constraints, offering significantly lower costs. The International Maritime Organization's new carbon regulations, like the Carbon Intensity Indicator, impose significant costs on ship owners to upgrade their vessels. These regulations aim to reduce the environmental impact of shipping, but they also create a financial burden that legitimate operators must bear, further widening the cost gap with the unregulated Ghost Fleet. The Ghost Fleet simply ignores them. They don't invest in safety. They don't pay for proper waste disposal. This deliberate disregard for international standards allows them to drastically cut operational costs, giving them an unfair advantage in the global shipping market and posing significant risks to marine environments. They don't adhere to labor standards. This allows them to undercut legitimate operators, creating a shadow market that rewards the worst actors. By exploiting their crews and neglecting basic human rights, these fleets further reduce their expenses, making it nearly impossible for compliant companies to compete fairly, and puts immense pressure on responsible companies to cut corners just to compete. The existence of this unregulated, low-cost alternative forces legitimate businesses to choose between maintaining their ethical standards and losing market share, creating a downward spiral of compliance and responsibility within the industry. The problem, therefore, isn't just their existence, it's the devastating real-world impact of this unregulated race. The consequences extend far beyond economic competition, affecting human lives and the health of our planet in profound ways that are often overlooked. These are not victimless crimes. The cost is paid by exploited human beings and by the delicate ecosystems of our oceans. From forced labor on board these vessels to catastrophic oil spills and illegal dumping, the environmental and human toll is immense and often goes unpunished. But the most shocking part of this story is not the what or the why, but the who. The human tragedy at the heart of the Ghost Fleets is a story that must be told, revealing the personal suffering and exploitation that underpins this illicit global enterprise. In the next part, We step aboard these phantom ships to uncover the harrowing realities faced by the forgotten crews and the hidden dangers lurking within these vessels, bringing to light the human cost of this shadowy industry. We've seen how ghost fleets serve the interests of rogue states and unscrupulous businesses. But who serves on these ships? They are the forgotten victims of our global supply chain. Hundreds of thousands of seafarers, often from developing nations like the Philippines, India, and here in Pakistan, are lured by the promise of a good wage. They find themselves trapped in a floating nightmare, facing the most extreme form of exploitation, crew abandonment. When a ghost fleet owner runs into financial trouble or their ship is seized for illegal activity, they simply disappear. They stop paying wages, cut off supplies of food, fuel, and fresh water, leaving the crew stranded, sometimes for years, in a foreign port. The International Transport Workers Federation, or ITF, calls it a humanitarian crisis on the high seas. In 2024, the International Maritime Organization reported over 100 cases of abandonment, affecting more than 1,500 seafarers. They become prisoners on their own vessels, unable to leave due to immigration laws, and unpaid for months or years of hard labor. They are the invisible slaves of our modern economy, a stark reminder of the human cost. This neglect of human life extends to the ships themselves, creating an ecological time bomb. Ghost fleet vessels are often decades old, poorly maintained, and sailing with falsified safety certificates. They routinely and illegally dump oily bilge water and other toxic waste directly into the ocean to save costs. When they are too old to sail, they are often deliberately sunk in remote waters or run aground on the beaches of South Asia. This releases tons of asbestos, heavy metals, and oil into the coastal environment, causing immense pollution. The recent mysterious oil spill that devastated the West African coastline has been linked by investigative journalists to a dark fleet tanker that went dark just before the incident. This brings us to the final cost: national security. A vessel that can turn off its identity at will is the perfect tool for smugglers, terrorists, and hostile states. They can be used to transport weapons, drugs, or even personnel, completely bypassing conventional surveillance. Interpol's Maritime Security Unit has repeatedly warned that this lack of transparency poses a significant and growing threat to global security. So, if these ships are so dangerous, who is responsible for policing them? And why aren't they being stopped? In the final part, we dive into the regulatory black hole that allows these ghosts to sail with impunity. We've seen the devastating human, environmental, and security costs inflicted by these elusive ghost fleets. Their illicit activities leave a trail of destruction across our oceans and communities. This grim reality compels us to ask a fundamental question: why isn't anyone effectively stopping them? Why are these operations allowed to continue with such apparent impunity? The answer lies deep within a dark regulatory black hole, a complex system of outdated laws and loopholes. This system, originally designed for a bygone era of maritime activity, is now expertly exploited by the ghosts of the sea with surgical precision, allowing them to evade accountability. At the core of this pervasive issue is the very foundation of international maritime law, specifically the law of the sea. This framework, while essential, contains critical vulnerabilities that ghost fleets exploit. On the vast expanse of the high seas, jurisdiction primarily belongs to the flag state, the country where a ship is officially registered. This principle, while seemingly straightforward, creates a significant challenge for enforcement and oversight. For instance, if a ship proudly flies the flag of Panama, then Panama holds the primary right and responsibility to police its activities. This means that other nations have limited authority to intervene, even if illegal activities are suspected. However, many countries offering these flags of convenience have tens of thousands of ships on their registries. These nations, often small island states, benefit financially from these registrations but lack the capacity to monitor them effectively. These flag states frequently possess neither the necessary resources nor the political will to adequately inspect and enforce international standards on a massive fleet scattered across the entire globe. This creates a significant enforcement vacuum that ghost fleets readily exploit. To further complicate matters, the true ownership of these vessels is deliberately obscured, buried under multiple layers of anonymous shell companies. This intricate web of corporate structures makes it nearly impossible to trace accountability. The company that legally owns the ship might be registered in one country. The actual operator could be based in another, and the vessel itself might fly the flag of a third nation. This deliberate fragmentation of responsibility creates a legal maze. This elaborate structure is a deliberate architecture of anonymity, meticulously designed to make it nearly impossible to hold any single entity or individual accountable for illegal activities. It's a system built to evade justice. But amidst these traditional legal failures and regulatory gaps, a powerful new force is emerging: technology. Where conventional law struggles to keep pace, innovation is stepping in to fill the void. A new generation of digital detectives is now leveraging the immense power of data and advanced analytics to shine a much-needed light into this maritime darkness. They are transforming how we monitor and understand ocean activities. Organizations like Global Fishing Watch and companies such as Windward AI are at the forefront of this revolution. They are fusing satellite imagery, comprehensive vessel tracking data, and sophisticated artificial intelligence algorithms to spot suspicious activity from the vantage point of space, identifying anomalies that human eyes might miss. When suspicious activity is detected, the system can then task a high-resolution satellite to capture detailed imagery, effectively catching the ship red-handed in the act of an illegal ship-to-ship transfer or other illicit operations. This provides irrefutable visual evidence. These advanced systems can detect when a ship deliberately fakes its location by manipulating its automatic identification system, or AIS, signals. This common tactic used by ghost fleets to disappear from legitimate tracking is now being exposed. They can also identify when a vessel meets another dark vessel, one that has intentionally turned off its transponder to avoid detection. These clandestine rendezvous often indicate illegal transfers of goods or illicit fishing activities. Furthermore, by analyzing patterns of behavior and historical data, these technologies can even predict illegal activity before it happens, based on a vessel's typical operational profile and deviations from it. This proactive approach is a game changer. This groundbreaking technology is rapidly creating an unprecedented level of transparency across the world's oceans, making it increasingly difficult for ghost fleets to operate undetected and hide their illicit activities. The shadows they once relied on are shrinking. However, it is crucial to understand that technology alone, no matter how advanced, is not a complete solution. While it provides powerful tools for detection and evidence gathering, it cannot solve the systemic issues on its own. The ultimate power to fundamentally change this broken system and bring true accountability lies squarely with us, the global community. Our collective actions and demands are what will drive lasting change. As consumers, we hold significant power. We must demand to know the true environmental and human cost embedded in our cheap goods, pushing for ethical supply chains and transparency from the brands we support. Our purchasing choices can influence corporate behavior. As citizens, we must actively demand that our governments collaborate internationally to close these pervasive legal loopholes and hold flag states accountable for the vessels registered under their jurisdiction. Stronger international cooperation is essential to enforce maritime law effectively. The ghost fleets thrive and operate with impunity in the darkness of regulatory gaps and anonymity. The most effective and enduring solution, therefore, is to bring them into the light, exposing their operations for all to see. This means embracing transparency, enforcing accountability, and cultivating the collective will to declare that the hidden human and environmental cost of our global economy is a price we are no longer willing to pay. We must prioritize the health of our oceans and the integrity of our supply chains. Thank you for joining me on ATM as we explored this critical issue and the innovative solutions emerging to combat ghost fleets. Your awareness and engagement are vital in this ongoing fight.